Welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Baller Show. If you're new here, my name is V. Lee, and Adam Schneider is my co-host. This is the show where we interview upcomers, doers, and ballers of the real estate investing world. The purpose is to help you to reach your financial freedom in real estate investing faster. Hey Adam, what's going on in your neck of the wood today?
V, it's a Monday. Time to start another week here. Let's rock it out.
Do you work on the weekend, Adam?
I work all the time, V. How about yourself?
Well, I try to take one day out of the weekend off, but this past weekend I did have to work more than other weekends.
Well, the beauty of being a real estate investor is that usually you get to control your own hours.
Yeah.
But occasionally they control yours. So even though it's maybe every day of the week, it's when you want to do it. So it doesn't feel like work.
That's right. Yeah. I had a meeting at 9 p.m. last night with my VA, and my daughter said, "Mommy, why do you have meetings so late?"
Right.
I said, "It's just what it is."
That's the way it goes.
Yeah. Okay, so today's topic. What is today's topic, Adam?
Let's talk about surveys and whether you should get a survey or not.
Okay, so survey. Survey is what I call a land plat of your property, and it shows the property line. And
it can also show topography of it.
Okay. Is that a normal survey or is it only a special, like a topo survey is when they actually...
That's right. You can get a topo survey.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah, when it comes to new constructions, then, you will probably need a topo survey. But typically, a typical survey is where it shows your property lines, and there's two type of survey. One is your normal neighborhood subdivision, where it's on lot and block, and then you have the other type of survey that we call the meets and bounds survey, and those surveys are usually a little bit more comprehensive.
That's right.
Did I miss anything on what a survey is?
No, I think for the purpose of this discussion, you hit it on the head. Usually where we are, you'll see some stakes that are either pink or orange. Little ribbons will be on them at the corners, or they'll mark them in some way or another. We had a recent crazy situation with a 25-acre property that a friend of mine had where the survey was done incorrectly the first time and it didn't actually close. So it looked like somebody had an infinite amount of land.
Oh, wow.
Right. So he had to get that resurveyed before he could complete a sale.
Wow. I hope it wasn't too expensive.
It was really expensive.
So a typical survey costs in our area about, I would say they probably up in the 400 to 500 now. What about your area?
We're at 500, but if you need something expedited, it's usually looking like 750 to 1,000. Oh. And almost everything needs to be expedited because they're
nowadays,
so
right?
So they call it expedited. I just pencil in 750 to 1,000 just to be safe on that one. But it used to be that it would be $500.
Yeah, we used to be 350. The most expensive survey I ever paid was $8,000.
That's about the price for the one I was just referencing. That was the really large acreage that needed to be redone. How big was your property that had to be?
Well, unfortunately, my land wasn't that big. But the problem was there's a couple of situations. One, it appeared to be on two parcels, and there's a parcel in between. So the second parcel in the back appeared to be a landlocked. So they had to come back a couple of times to figure out if it was landlocked or if there was an easement or a way to get to that second parcel. I think total 8 acres together. But the back also was really wooded. So the surveyor had to get the chainsaw out,
Oh my gosh.
and remove some trees, some bushes. So that's why it was $8,000 survey. Yep.
Right.
But it was necessary.
Got it. So when do you get surveys? Do you get them all the time or do you make decisions based on situations?
Well, I think there are two situations, right? If a buyer buying a property where there's a typical institutional lender involved, like Fannie Mae, big banks, then I believe a survey is required all the time. And so that's the owner-occupant situations, or if you have a big bank lender. But if it's in our situations where we pay cash, I used to not ever buy a survey unless it's on acreage or meet and bounds. But I've changed my mind recently. How about you?
So now you don't get them at all, and now you get them all the time.
No, now I get them all the time.
Yeah. So I think that the lenders will be okay if there's a survey that was a recorded survey that's relatively recent. I don't think that they're going to make everyone get one immediately now. Now, if the last survey was done 50 years ago, they'll probably have a
No, you're right on that. Yeah. They'll require...
This episode is brought to you by Bus Vacation Rentals,
a premier property management company in Houston and Galveston areas.
Bus Vacation Rentals specializes in managing short-term rentals the right way.
Give us a call at 281-549-8432 to learn more, or check out their website at www.buzzvacationrentals.com.
www.buzzvacationrentals.com.
Now back to the Real Estate Ballers Show.
Back to the Real Estate Ballers Show.
But they can look at the existing survey and see if they approve, or they require a new survey. And if there's new structure on the property, they probably want you to do a new survey. Yeah, you're right on that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I usually don't get surveys. There's only a few times, and the reason I don't get them is mainly because it slows everything down, just because of the current environment we're in, that it might take 3 or 4 weeks, and the surveyor will maybe say yes to it, and then you can never hear from them again. You don't even know what's going on. But there's a few cases where I really am on high alert for it. Mm-hmm. And so these are the kinds of scenarios. So if I know that the property was something that had been owned in a family for a long time and it kept getting subdivided, that's one that I'll want to have surveyed, especially if it's on well. So I bought a property years ago where we found out through the survey that the people were using water that was on a well that wasn't actually part of their property anymore. It used to be when it was part of the whole family. So those cuts of old family land, that's one. I'll do it if there's a fence and it looks like it was a DIY fence that was done by somebody and that there's a good chance that there's a fence that's encroaching. I had one last week that I went to look at where it was pretty evident that there's a good chance that the driveway was partly on two different properties because there was orange spray painted with an arrow that made it look like that was the surveyors from the other neighbor looking at it. And that's where they marked it down. So if there's something that's sort of obvious, or you got a really weird winding road or driveway that you think is probably crossing paths with another neighbor, then I would definitely recommend getting that survey.
Well, the reason we really have to get a survey is just to make sure that we are in fact buying what we're buying, right? Right. So at the end of the day, it's about risk mitigation, in my opinion. So if you feel comfortable about what you're buying and your legal descriptions appear to be matching with what you're buying, in that case, it's a business decision. And I think I probably will feel comfortable with moving forward in that scenario when speed of the game matters. But in a situation like you described, where it's unclear, then I would probably wait to verify.
Yeah. So I almost never get them, but yet right now I've ordered 2 surveys for different scenarios.
Yeah.
One is one where I'm buying 2 lots. One lot has a house on it and one doesn't. And so when I'm going to be selling these, I want to be able to provide a survey for the end buyer so they can determine the value. And then the other situation I have is one where there's a fairly big discrepancy between what the tax record says the acreage is and what the deed says the acreage is. And so I just wanted to be able to get the survey done just so I can confirm what I'm actually buying.
Yeah, I think in the event of buying acreage, I almost always get a survey, or I have to make sure that we walk the property, check the survey to make sure it matches with what the property line match with what we've seen on the survey.
Well, if you walked your 8-acre one, you were probably exhausted by the time that day was over.
Well, I think you have a good general idea of where it is, right? You probably just, back up the car or something to the corner.
Right. You should just get yourself a drone, Vee, and then just take the photos from the drone and you can see what you got.
I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about getting a drone just for that reason.
There you go.
So I have an investor in our group that was buying a property. And through the survey, she discovered that her seller does not own the property that he was selling, did not own the property. So this whole
she
time,
figured that out from a survey or from a title search? How
from
did
a
that
survey.
work?
So the seller with the house that's been paying for the house for 20-something years, he learned that he actually was buying the lot or paying for the lot next to him this whole time, 20-something years.
Oh my gosh.
That is horrible. That is
my gosh.
bad.
Oh, one of the real estate attorneys that we work closely with here told a story where he's dealing with a client and there was confusion with the survey and then the address, and then the legal address was changed from the postal address, and one property was going to get foreclosed on. And so the bank's foreclosure guy came there and foreclosed on that property by coming up to the door and letting the tenant know that they had to be out. So the tenant left. Well, he announced to the wrong house, to the wrong property. And so the tenant left a property that wasn't being foreclosed on.
Yeah.
And it was only 2 years later, everyone figured out that next door, the one that was foreclosed on, that tenant was been staying there the whole time.
Wow.
And so from that one, part of that was with the survey. And then it turns out that that one house was built on two properties. It wasn't even built on its own property.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, how often does things like that happen, do you think?
Well, we only hear the stories. So we don't know if it happens all the time, but nobody really feels like telling us it because they're embarrassed. It's like when you go with your friends to Vegas and 7 or 8 people all play blackjack, you only hear the story from the person who won. You don't hear the stories from the 6 or 7 people who lost all their money.
That's right. Yeah.
People generally like to tell you about how clever they are and how well they did. They don't like to tell you the embarrassing things where they've been paying on the wrong lot for 20 years.
So in the end, what's your bottom line on this survey?
So the bottom line on the survey is if there's something that seems to be a possible risk because of what we've just talked about, that's going to make it difficult to sell, or I'm not quite sure that I have what it looks like I have right away, then I'll go ahead and spend the money. It's not the money, it's the time. And if I feel like it's a low risk factor on it, then I'll usually shoot first and ask questions later.
Awesome. I think I agree with you in that scenario. Again, at the end of the day, for us investors, it's all about minimizing our exposure to risk. So make the decision that you're comfortable with making. All right. Thank you for watching.
Bye, Vee.
Bye. Thanks for watching the Real Estate Ballers show. If you find value in this show, please give us some support, give us a like, and subscribe to us. Help us get the words out by sharing this episode with a friend, or give us a shout out on social media using the hashtag REBallers. Lastly, leave us a comment below. Let us know what you like, what you learned, what's working for you, what's not working for you. Thank you, and see you next time.